Hey friends, welcome back to She's At It Again. My name's Tanya, and we're going to cut right to the chase here. We're making lasagna today. I made some pasta here a while back, and I've had it in a bag in the pantry, so we're just going to use that. And I'll show you a little shortcut to that if you're not familiar with that. But we're just going to make a pan of lasagna so we can enjoy that tomorrow, but we're making it a day ahead of time. So go with me in the kitchen as we make some just lasagna. All right, we have our skillet heating up. You can use a Dutch oven, you can use a big saucepan, just something big enough to hold some vegetables, some tomato ingredients. So you'll see about how much that is in just a bit. So I only thought about making lasagna earlier this morning, so my meat is still a little bit frozen. It's not thawed out all the way, but it's close. So I'm gonna wait till this skillet gets a little bit warmer. I don't want it to stick completely to the skillet. So we have 1 pound of ground sirloin. That's pretty frozen still. Obviously, this doesn't have a whole lot of fat in it, but it'll have enough to where our vegetables can saute in the fat once it releases it. When I first started this YouTube channel, I kind of sent out an email to some friends and said, is there anything anybody wants to know how to make? And I had one friend respond back. She's so sweet. She lives in Florida and she has several little kids, and she's just kind of at her wit's end about the last thing I want to think about is something to make. She said she wanted to learn how to make lasagna, and she wanted to learn how to make, I think she said chicken and dumplings. I'm not sure, but chicken and dumplings will come pretty soon because right now it's just a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving. So I'll be making those for Thanksgiving, and then the video will come out sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So hopefully that'll get to some of you out there who are interested in learning how to make chicken and dumplings the Southern way, the Arkansas way. But hopefully she will watch this and say, there's my lasagna. Sorry about the noise in the background. I have the washing machine going. So it'll do its little song at the end of the cycle in just a minute. So in this container over here, I have a couple of carrots, just sliced thin. I have about 1/2 cup of chopped yellow onion, and I have about 6 mushrooms chopped up. Now these mushrooms, I chopped them up earlier because I had an overabundance of mushrooms for something I was making. I just had some left over and didn't have anything to use them for at that point, so I chopped them up. They were all clean and dry, and I put them in a zip top bag and stuck them in the freezer. So I just broke off a big chunk of it that would equal about 6 mushrooms and put in this container. So this is what I've gathered up. earlier so I wouldn't have to do it at the last minute. Lasagna is not a hard dish to make. For every human out there, there's several different varieties of lasagna. This is one of my favorites, but this is just one of those that through the years I've added things to it. I've taken some things out probably. I just do things a different way. When I learn something better, I do something better. So I think this is probably, well, at this point in my life, it's the best lasagna I've ever made. Because everything is a learning experience, and if I taste something in a different version of lasagna and I think, oh, that's really good, I'm going to add that to mine. That goes in the list too. So this is just years of making it and learning from, not really mistakes, but just different flavor preferences. We add things to it. And the fact that I'm throwing carrots in there, you're not going to see carrots on a lot of lasagnas, but it adds color to it. It adds just a slight bit of sweetness to it, which kind of balances out the acidity of the tomato products in it. And I think it just makes a better product. Whoops, stay in there. Got some escaping ground beef here. I got this frozen center in it. I'm trying to cook that down. And when I first learned how to make lasagna, whether it was when I was in college or when we first got married, I would have this rolling, boiling pot of water over here, cooking my lasagna noodles and fighting them like an eel in a stream and getting those in a pan, and they would wiggle all over. And then I learned you don't have to cook those. And that was my aha moment. I thought, I'm going to keep making this stuff. If you don't have to cook those noodles, I'm doing it again. So that kind of got me going on the lasagna kick. I made a lot of lasagna for a while, and we didn't really get tired of it, but just the fact that when I learned you didn't really have to cook the noodles, they weren't going to get mushy, they weren't going to have that wasn't going to have an adverse effect on them. That was all the information I needed to go forward. So like I said, these are some just bigger ribbon pasta that I made here a while back. There's a video. We'll try to link that in the description of making noodles. There's one for a no egg pasta, and then there's egg pasta. So I'm not sure which one my husband will put on there, the link to. So just whichever one shows up, that's probably the one we used. But pasta is not hard to make. It's really fun if you have kids in there that just want to learn to do something. And it's fun. It's almost like using a Play-Doh machine that has the roller in it. And you don't even need a pasta roller as far as a fancy machine. You can just do it with a rolling pin, or as my Nana said, if you just cut a broomstick, you can use that as a roller. She claims that my granddad, when they were first married, she wanted a rolling pin, and he took one of her worn out brooms and cut it to the length of a rolling pin and made sure all the paint was sanded off of it, and that's what she used for years as her rolling pin. So just because you don't have a rolling pin doesn't mean you can't roll something out, that's for sure. She was quite resourceful. All right, at this point our ground beef is not completely cooked. There's still quite a bit of pink in it, but I'm going to go ahead and add these vegetables to it. These are the carrots, onions, and mushrooms. If you wanted to add green or red peppers to it, sweet peppers, that would be quite good too. Add about a teaspoon of minced garlic, or 1 clove of garlic. We like garlic a lot, so I'm not scared of it. This calls for about 2 teaspoons of dried basil. And this is basil from my yard, my flower bed, anywhere I could find a spot to stick a plant in the ground. I had a basil plant growing. And I just dried this out. That's what I'm using. I probably will never run out of basil. I say that and then I'll probably run out, but for right now the basil supply is looking pretty good. Zoe's come to check on things. And she is right at my feet. I kind of get carried away with the basil sometimes, but I just really, really like the flavor of it, and I love the fragrance too. That and oregano just screams, this is definitely Italian. Okay, that might be enough, I don't know. We might get wild and put some more in there. I don't want to stem in it though, that's for sure. We're also going to add a teaspoon of salt, and that's going to help kind of get the sweat going in those vegetables in there. And we'll need 1 teaspoon of dried oregano as well. There's the oregano. All right, now we start adding our tomato products. This is just about a 15-ounce can of fire roasted diced tomatoes. Just any kind of crushed tomatoes, diced tomatoes, stewed tomato, well, not stewed tomatoes, you're talking about other ingredients in it, but whole tomatoes, you can chop those up. But I love the fire roasted ones. For some reason, that smoky flavor and it just enhances almost everything I can think of that would call for a tomato ingredient in it. All right, I also need about 8 ounces of tomato sauce, and I don't have a small can of tomato sauce, so I'm getting a small canning jar, and I have a 15-ounce can of tomato sauce, so I'm going to pour about half of it in this jar to use for something else. Don't throw it away. Don't be a waster. And then what we have left is about as much as you would have in a small can. And I'll label this before I put it in the refrigerator, because otherwise I'll look at that and go, I don't have any idea what that is. Maybe tomato soup, maybe, I don't know, ketchup. But I doubt it would be ketchup. I'm not a big fan of ketchup. I have some ketchup, but it normally gets used in recipes. But I'll label that with my masking tape in just a bit before I stick it in the fridge. All right, and the last ingredient we're going to add to this sauce is a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. This tomato paste is going to thicken it up quite a bit because you have most of the liquid dehydrated or cooked out of tomato paste products. It's going to make your whatever you're making considerably thicker normally. turn the heat down on the burner underneath the skillet, and it's cooking on a pretty low burner. Give this a stir, and then we're going to put a lid on it and just let it simmer while we get all of our other ingredients going. All right, put a lid on that, and let's go over to the island and get something else going. Okay, we're back over at the island. We are going to take 2 eggs. Egg had one thin side to it and one thick side. Let's see, I'm gonna use my smaller eggs. That's a pretty color egg too. And let me get a spatula. We're going to use 2½ cups of combination ricotta and cottage cheese, and it's not like there's a taste trick or anything to this. It's just that these containers of ricotta only have about 1 3/4 cups, and I need 2½ cups of product, so I'm just adding the rest of it as cottage cheese. Again, I'm just eyeballing this. I'm not measuring it. I really like the cheese part though. That's kind of my favorite part. All right. The ricotta, the cottage cheese, and I'm going to need some grated Parmesan to put in this. Basically, we're making another layer to this because if you've ever seen the real pretty magazine pictures of the lasagna, it's so pretty. It has like the pasta and the meat sauce and the cheese sauce, and you can see them. Well, mine don't look like that. They're in layers, all right, but you're never going to detect a layer in mine. It's just kind of willy-nilly thrown in there, kind of messy, but it sure does taste good. This is my big chunk of my famous chunk of Parmesan Reggiano that was mailed to us straight from Italy by our foreign exchange student that was living with my neighbors back last year, and he was so sweet. Got back home to Italy and just mailed us this box of stuff. There was some, I think there was some coffee in it or something, and I'm not a fan of coffee, but when my neighbor said, "Do you want this thing of cheese?" I was like, "Yeah, yes I do." So I was happy to take that cheese, and we have used it. I mean, that chunk was probably that big when it started out, so we've used quite a bit of it. All right, we're going to need about 3/4 of a cup. I think that's what my recipe says. Yes. And then a teaspoon of pepper. And I love the taste of black pepper in pasta dishes. I think it is fabulous in there. It gives it that little kick. And this is one of those dishes where you don't want to miss that. Zoe's down there buffing at me because she knows I have the grater in my hand, and she thinks there's some cheese that she needs to have access to, but it's not going to happen. She's kind of sassy. All right, I'm just eyeballing it down there, and it looks like I'm getting pretty close to having the right amount. All right, I'll stick this back in here because I might need some more for the top. I'm not sure. Okay, and this is why we like the flexible cutting boards. Just like that, with a lot less mess than if we don't have one. All right, mix your Parmesan in there. 3/4 of a cup of Parmesan to your 2 eggs and 2.5 cups of combination ricotta and cottage cheese. And if you wanted to put cream cheese in that, I'm not going to tell anybody, and I think you'd like it. All right, let's get our pepper. Teaspoon of black pepper, and we're going to need a little bit of dried parsley for this. We'll go with probably a couple of teaspoons. I'm going to check on this mix over here. Ooh, that's looking good. I'll grab the camera and I'll take this over there and show you what it looks like. All right, we're going to turn that burner off because we don't need it cooking any longer. I just want it to cook long enough to soften up those carrots and onions and things that are in there. All right, we have that. When Zoe needs to go out, I just let her out there. She's just wanting out in the sunroom because she knows her daddy's out there. All right, we're gonna shred up our mozzarella now. And this takes a pound of mozzarella. If you have the super soft kind that you don't grate, you just cut it up, then that's totally fine. It would be fabulous in this, but this is just what I picked up at the store. And you know what I'm going to say. Don't ever use pre-shredded cheese in this. Pre-shredded cheese has a coating of cellulose to keep it from clumping together. It's kind of like putting baby powder on something so it doesn't stick to something else. So, well, that's probably not a good example. You shouldn't put baby powder on your food. You would put cornstarch on something if you didn't want it to stick together, but the food industry uses cellulose, and you can do your research on cellulose, but it not only is something I'm not interested in eating, but it is it kind of prohibits the melting qualities of it. It's almost like it absorbs some of the moisture to it, and it's just not very appealing. So get your work out and grate some cheese. Or if you have a teenager staring at you saying, "When is dinner going to be ready?" Let them grate the cheese. Now you can always grate cheese ahead of time. If you know you're going to make this on Tuesday, by all means, grate your own cheese and put it in a bag or a container or something, and it's not anything you can't just shake around and keeping it from clumping up. You can break it up easily like that, but the food industry wants theirs to be appealing and not be stuck together in the bag. It's all about merchandising. So just know that you're going to pay for the convenience in one way or another. Okay, that's a big pretty pile of shredded mozzarella. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our pan, and this is how we assemble it. Make sure I don't have anything missing on here. Okay, it looks like I have it all. This is going to be about 8 ounces of lasagna. So I'm going to take my pasta in here and line it up. And it's not going to be lined up perfectly, and that's okay. And sometimes if it doesn't lay down, you just have to press it down to get it to stay. All right, let's make sure I got it all in here. All right, I think I do. Get one of these. I'll use this spatula. You can use a 9x13. I'm pretty sure all this will fit in there. It's been a while since I've made lasagna, so I'm not sure, but this just looks like a perfect lasagna pan. This is one of my favorite baking dishes. I just kind of take it and blob it in little drops on there. Let me make sure you can see this. If you've ever been to those places where the big marketing thing is they'll say 17-layer lasagna, and it shows a picture and you can see all the layers in there. I'm thinking, I don't know how they do that. That's not real. It can't be real. But it sure is pretty in the picture. Mine will not look like that when I'm done. I can promise you that. All right, just got to get this as evenly dispersed as you can. What you're after is just everybody that gets a piece is going to have that layer of something in it. All right, next thing we want to do is bring over our meat sauce. And we're going to spread this out, or disperse this just like we did the ricotta cheese. Just kind of drop it in little blobs all around. Don't be tempted to take your spoon and spread it out, because then you start moving the noodles around and then it's all naked on the bottom of the pan. And what's going to happen when you cook this is the juices from the tomatoes and the meat and all that are going to get to that pasta, and while it's baking in the oven, the noodles will cook like that. So they're not going to be raw when you cut into this. It's just a matter of you're not going to be cooking them ahead of time. So now you know. Let's put a layer of mozzarella on there. Doesn't have to be a thick layer, just evenly distributed. Like that. And then let's put more noodles on there. You can put these go in both directions. You can have them all go in one direction. It really doesn't matter. Back to the cheese mixture. And then more meat mixture. You can press it down with the back of your spoon. Just try not to scoot it around. I'm just basically getting the air bubbles out of it. I don't want any pockets in there where there's no product or no substance to it. More mozzarella. You can hear every clock in the house going off now when it's quiet. Okay, we'll put the last of our lasagna noodles in there. And when you make fresh pasta, it's going to weigh a little bit more than dried pasta. The water's gone. Water weighs a pint a pound, so you're giving up a little bit of weight right there. But you're looking at about 8 ounces of lasagna noodles. This is like putting a puzzle together. Dump those on the top there. Push that down. You want all the pasta to be coming in contact with the juice from the meat sauce. All right, last bit of cheese mixture on here. I would think this would be really cute made into little individual dishes of lasagna. If you were having a dinner party or something and you just wanted to make individual servings, put them in little ramekins or little enamelware pots and bake each one individually. I think that'd be kind of cool. Who wouldn't want their very own little pan of lasagna? All right, my bowl is clean. Can you see that? Okay, and that's why we were an apron. All right, last bit of meat sauce in there. If you have somebody eating with you that's going to freak out over carrots, just shred them. Chop those things up where it does not look like anything. Mine are in little circles, and that's okay. I don't think our dinner guest is going to freak out at a carrot. Get that spatula out and use it for its handiness. That way we can get every drop. All right, we'll push this down again, make sure there's no air pockets. And make sure all the noodles are covered up. You don't want a dry noodle sticking out, because I'm telling you, if you think a dry pasta noodle's hard, just wait till you bake it in the oven and it gets even harder. Woo! That is not pleasant to bite into. So you want to make sure all the noodles are covered up, even if you have to break one and put push it down in there. There, that looks perfect. And we'll get our last layer of mozzarella on here. What I might do is grate some Parmesan and put it on after I take this out of the oven. That'll be tomorrow. But just to prevent it from scorching on the top. I love my countertops, but sometimes I lose things like cheese on here because there's a pattern to it. Okay, friends, this is looking fabulous. And it smells really good. I'm not even hungry because I just had lunch, but this looks great. All right, so this is going to cool off. We're going to put it in the refrigerator. Tomorrow I'll get up, before I leave for church, I'll put this in the oven and heat it up real good, leave for church, and turn the oven off. And it'll stay warm the entire time when our lunch guests come. It'll be nice and warm when we sit down to eat lunch. So I'll video this when I take it out of the oven. You can get a good look at it. We'll maybe cut into it, maybe. I don't know. But at least you'll look at it, get to see it when it's in its baked form. So anyway, I'll give you a look at it when it's done. But just so you know, I appreciate you watching and hanging out with us today. So hope you have a good day, but I'll give you a last look at it tomorrow. See ya.